What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This here is Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date and keep you informed on everything that Congress is doing. And holy crap, here we go, folks. This time last year, we had, as a matter of fact, we had actually 0 appropriations bills done. And now we have 4, according to the House. However, Democrats are absolutely enraged over what House Republicans are doing. And yeah, they should be, because Democrats are big government. They just want to spend until the economy is pretty much blown up. Until the economy is absolutely destroyed. They could care less. They think the government should run every single aspect of your life. They should have control over everything. That they should essentially control your life like a communist government would. That is what we are trying to live under with Democrat rule. And once again, yeah, you're not going to get the vast majority of Americans to agree. They can pull the wool over the American people's eyes, some of them, right? The corporate press and their narrative, oh, it's not communism, it's not communism. No, but it is communism. That's what they're trying to implement slowly. At a very slow snail's pace, they're trying to implement communism. That's what they're working towards. Even if they don't know it, that's exactly what they're trying to work towards. We can see that with communist California. Just look at very high taxes, right? You can't do anything in California. It costs more to get permits to build a house than it would the value of the house. It's utterly obscene, if you ask me. But let's go ahead and get into the story right quick. House Republicans unite on spending cuts to non-defense programs, but Senate roadblocks await. Yeah, here we go, y'all. House Republicans are off to a quicker, more united start this year when it comes to funding the federal government, passing 4 of 12 annual appropriations bill before the end of June compared to 0 at this time last year when the new majority got off to a rocky start. But there is no denying the spending fights to come. All 4 bills that passed the House so far generated veto threats from President Joe Biden's administration and drew widespread Democratic opposition, and they have no chance of passing the Senate in their current form. That means a protracted, months-long battle that will likely require 1 or more stopgap spending bills to keep the federal government fully open when the new fiscal year begins October 1st. Yeah, okay, so the Republicans are actually proposing spending cuts. Yeah, spending cuts. Believe it or not, folks, they're actually proposing spending cuts, and that's what their appropriations bills look like. And the reason, this is just one of the most absurd things for Democrats to get out there and tell the American people when we're already spending in a $1.7 trillion deficit, when we're already adding $1 trillion to the national debt every 90 days, I believe it is. That we need to spend more. We need to raise. We don't need spending cuts. We need spending boosts. No, what? You're insane, right? The American people are already hurting bad. We don't want to be taxed into oblivion, and that's exactly what Joe Biden is proposing. Even though he gets out there and says, no, we're not going to raise taxes. We're not going to raise taxes on anybody except for people that make over this amount. Well, a lot of business owners make over that amount. So if you raise taxes on businesses, they're just the idea that Joe Biden keeps on saying he's trying to build the economy from the middle out makes no sense when you want to tax the rich into oblivion. That is going to force companies to leave the United States altogether. Or the companies that can't leave the United States, you're going to force them into foreclosure, for goodness sakes, by taxing them into oblivion, right? We know trickle-down economics is a thing. It is constantly in play. Whether you want it there or not, it's going to be there. So the more and more you tax the rich, the more the trickle-down economics is going to be into effect. You take their profits away, they're going to raise prices in response to that. You cannot get away from trickle-down economics, no matter how hard you try to. If you just add more taxes to the upper 1% or whatever, the upper 20% or whatever you're trying to do, that's going to affect everybody else below that. House Republicans are intent on passing the dozen appropriations bill one at a time rather than combining them into one massive catch-all bill known as an omnibus, which they say leads to excessive spending and faulty government policies because such massive bills are harder to amend or stop without risking a government shutdown. And they are totally correct. All of these things should be separated because people love to add these little bitty amendments into these things, and they get more money for their district and all this other pork that is added into these bills, and then they dangle government shutdown over everybody in the House, forcing them to vote for something that they don't want to vote for. That is utterly absurd. It takes away from Congress's ability to represent you. That's exactly what those omnibus spending packages do. But can you get politicians or the corporate press to actually tell you guys this? No. It takes people like me to see the writing on the wall and see that omnibus spending packages are the problem with Washington, D.C. That's where the bulk of the corruption is coming from. That is where the bulk of our spending crisis is coming from. So you separate all these appropriations packages and you can trim the fat, if you will, off of these things and actually balance the budget and not spend in a deficit. That's the easiest way to do that. As a matter of fact, that's the only way you can do that. You'll never combine all 12 appropriations packages and not balance your budget. There's always going to be pork in these things because politicians are corrupt. We know this. We have a lot of dirty politicians on both sides. Earlier this year, Speaker Mike Johnson broke up the discretionary spending into two bills. Congress ended up passing them in March, nearly halfway through the fiscal year. Now, House Republicans are intent on moving more quickly for the fiscal year 2025 spending bills. Johnson bragged that the House has passed 4 of next year's spending bills compared to 0 in the Senate. House Republicans have committed to building that muscle memory back and go through with regular order, Johnson said, whatever that means. The House GOP's momentum is likely temporary. They decided to go on their own way rather than work with Democrats in crafting the bills. GOP leadership jettisoned key aspects of an agreement then Speaker Kevin McCarthy worked out with Biden that put in place strict spending limits as part of a deal to avoid a crippling default. Yeah, and that deal that they worked out was an utter rebuke of fiscal responsibility. That's all that was. The agreement called for a defense and non-defense spending to increase during the next fiscal year beginning October 1st. But House Republicans have decided that they'll pursue a course where not only defense will go up that amount, non-defense spending will be cut by 6%, spurring adjustments McCarthy and the White House agreed to. That would allow for more non-defense spending than was specified in the debt ceiling legislation. That difference between the two paths is significant. If House Republicans stayed with the McCarthy-Biden agreement, non-defense spending would raise from nearly $773 billion this year to more than $780 billion in the next fiscal year. Instead, they are working toward roughly $725 billion in non-defense spending. Yes, this is a good thing, reducing spending. Right? It's not going to get our $1.7 trillion deficit spending under wraps, but it will move toward that goal of not spending in a deficit. Like, I just don't understand some of these people, how they think that you can just continue to increase spending without getting more money in taxes and think that that's okay, right? Like, let me know down in the comments section if any of you guys can spend more money than you make every week, right? You might scream credit card, but eventually you're going to max out that credit card. And you can't just vote to raise your credit limit, kind of like how we can just vote to raise our debt ceiling. Yeah, that's just, it's utter absurdity that nobody ever points that out. Rep. Tom Cole, the Republican chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, argued that House Republicans are going by what was in the debt ceiling bill, not all of the Biden-McCarthy agreement was in it. The negotiators had agreed to claw back funding approved outside the appropriations process to shore up non-defense spending and keep it relatively flat. For example, negotiators agreed to trim $20 billion from the IRS and apply that money elsewhere. The White House says that rather than respecting their agreement and engaging in bipartisan process, House Republicans are again wasting time with partisan bills that would result in deep cuts to law enforcement, education, housing, and other programs, which is what we need. We need cuts. We need to balance the budget. Like, these people are just outright insane. Cole argues that Democrats have brought the GOP's course of action on by voting with 8 Republicans to oust McCarthy. That is the whole reason they've done that. Kevin McCarthy betrayed the Republican Party to vote in the interests of the lobbyists and the interests of the Biden administration, who vote against the interests of the American people. Right? And it's really hard to get Americans to understand this when the corporate press is constantly lying, and they'll constantly report on government shutdown and how bad and evil Republicans are, when all Republicans are wanting to do is balance the budget, for God's sakes. And that's it. And Democrats don't want to do that. They want to keep spending in a deficit. And then they try to call Republicans evil for wanting to shut the government down because they don't want to give in to demands to not spend more money than what we make. If that is not absurd to you, let me know down in the comments section, and because I have an argument for you. Democrats need to understand that they participated in getting rid of the speaker. It was their choice. They had every right to do it. But if you think you can get rid of the person you cut the deal with and the deal is going to stay the same, maybe you need to rethink it, Cole said. And he's totally right about that. Yeah, Kevin McCarthy betrayed Republicans. And so Republicans got rid of McCarthy for it. Bye-bye to that deal that they had. Meanwhile, House Republicans are adding scores of policy mandates to the spending bills that are dead on arrival with a Democratic-led Senate and White House. For example, the House defense spending bill would not allow the Pentagon to reimburse service members for travel expenses related to getting an abortion. This is a good thing. Taxpayers shouldn't reimburse service members for time they take off to go get an abortion and to pay for that abortion. I'm sorry, I don't want to pay for that. Take that out of your own pocket. If you want to spend money to kill your baby, do it on your own dime. It's basic logic, folks. Many troops and their dependents are based in states where abortion is now illegal, so they must travel to get abortion care. They don't must travel to get abortion care. They choose to do that. That is not a necessity. I'm sorry, you see how the corporate press loves to frame stuff like this? It's utter just absurdity. And it's just insane how the corporate press reports on insanity, trying to make it sane. Once again, like I say, they try to twist facts into their narrative. They try to place their narrative on top of facts and then try to present that as reality. Yeah, no. I'm sorry. That's not how reality works. Democrats see the House GOP's actions as failing to learn the lessons of last year. Any spending bills passed into law will need bipartisan support. They describe the House floor action on the spending bills as a waste of time since the bills have no chance in the Senate. Extreme MAGA Republicans are marching us toward a government shutdown, warned Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. Well, guess what, Hakeem Jeffries? How is the extreme MAGA Republicans' position extreme? I would love for somebody to really explain that to me. Do you understand what Hakeem Jeffries is telling you? It is extreme to not spend more money than what you take in. It is extreme to not want to borrow money to run your government. Folks, once again, like I always say, if you can spend more money than you have, if you can just max out your credit card and just keep going, let me know, because I'll retract everything I've just said if that's possible. Senate Appropriations Committee Chair Patty Murray and the committee's lead Republican Senator Susan Collins have been in talks behind the scenes negotiating top-line spending totals for defense and non-defense spending programs. Both are looking to go above the 1% increase slated for defense and non-defense under the agreement that Biden and McCarthy reached. Boosting the defense budget is a top priority of some Republicans, but Murray is insisting on parity. Parity is the order of the day, she said, because investments in our families, in our economy, in communities, safety, and success are no less than important than investments at the Pentagon. Huh? Yeah, I'm sorry. Once again, they're trying to take insanity and force it into reality. How is the government spending more money than what it takes in voting in the interests of families? How is the government spending more money than what it takes in investments into families, investments into the country? How is that an investment? It's not. It's only damaging our dollar even further. It's breaking our dollar down penny by penny by penny, making it less and less valuable because these people can't stop their freaking spending spree. They're addicted to spending money. And they're trying to cry foul when a few Republicans want to come in and stop the unmitigated spending disaster that we have going on in Washington, D.C., and then they want to call them extreme for that. Do you understand how insane that is? The committee is scheduled to take up its first 3 spending bills on Thursday, and the top line amount of money to be allocated for each of the 12 spending bills. If the Senate goes beyond the 1% increase, that could complicate passage in the House, where many Republicans viewed the spending caps as too generous. A few months after those caps were approved as part of the debt ceiling bill, 8 Republicans sided with Democrats to oust then Speaker McCarthy from his job. That is right, because what the Democrats and some Republicans are trying to do is just utter insanity. We have been on, like I said, an insane spending spree since the early 2000s, and it's not slowing down, folks. Like I said, $1.7 trillion deficit spending. That is an absurd number. And the Democrats will get on national television and try to tell you that it's Republicans that are bad for wanting to curb our addiction to spending. It's Republicans that are evil for not wanting to borrow money that we don't have to spend money where we don't need it. It's Republicans that are evil for not wanting to pay for somebody to travel out of state to get an abortion so they can kill their baby. It's all just insane. And it just surprises me till no end that the corporate press will get right behind that narrative and just push it with no pushback whatsoever. No logic coming from the corporate press whatsoever. It's just insane to me that none of them, not even Fox News, will push back on the White House. Say, hey, don't you think you're spending a little bit too much money here? No, they want to latch on to things like, oh, Joe Biden falling off of his freaking bike. They want to latch on to the viral moments instead of trying to hold the government to account to tell these people, look, the American people can't take this much longer, right? Our economy can't take this much longer. This is extreme, what they're doing. What the Democrats are doing is extreme insanity, if you will. And that's not hyperbole coming from me. Think about what they're doing. Think about everything I've read out in this video. It's just utter insanity. But I think I've rambled on for long enough. I want you guys to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. I imagine you guys have some opinions on the spending spree, the absurd spending spree that the American government has been on, and just how bloated our government has become. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Man, it's just crazy, ain't it? But like I said, that's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.